everybody. TK here, TK and Drinks, and it's a Thursday night live, so you know we've got another live video coming at you today. Obviously, we're going to be doing a continuation of our BJCP style guidelines advice series, kicking off with M2A Cysers today. We'll be joined by Jeff from Maniacal Mead Company. We already got some people popping in. Appreciate anybody who's hoping that we can get Jeff in here. Everybody can see each other, and it's all copacetic.
I can see you.
Excellent. Groovy, like a drive-in movie. How you been, brother? It's been a minute since we've seen you.
Yeah.
Almost a year now. Holy cow.
Been good, man. How you doing?
Doing excellent. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure,
Appreciate your time, efforts, and energies. I am in a new space, so please forgive me if it's all echoey and whatnot. I haven't got quite dived in yet.
Congrats on the new home.
Thank you very much. In my new Mead space, hoping to get it all decorated out, get some fermenters going behind me and whatnot.
Yeah, right on.
Make it look like a real Mead space. Yes, sir. But I digress from the evening's plans. So the whole point of this series was to talk to mead makers, successful mead makers who specify in certain style. And I say it's their only thing, but they tend to do well in one particular style. And you guys make a great apple mead products. You guys make a variety of apple mead products. And I think really share your knowledge on working with apples and help other people be able to get the most out of their apple mead products.
Sure. That sounds great. I'm always happy to share the limited amount of knowledge I do have.
That would be all of us, man. Just share what little bit we have, and all of us together might collectively make a friends.
Yeah, for sure.
So, as somebody who does make a lot of apple meads, really good apple meads on top of that, what to you defines a great apple mead?
Well, for me, I personally enjoy a variety level of sweetness, but you really want an apple mead to taste like apples first and foremost. And there's so many different types of apples out there, and unique apple flavors. But I think is a good strong apple flavor is something you want, and you can essentially ferment that out. So there are plenty of apple sizes out there that are probably lacking on a strong apple profile.
Absolutely. Is there like a bar fight going on behind you or something?
A bar fight?
Yes, it sounds. There's like all sorts of noise in the background. Sounds like there's like a scuffle going on or something.
It's just me.
Holy cow! Oh, or maybe it's my headphone. I don't know. So I think you're right. I think a lot of people do have make an apple mead that they feel like if they put too much apple in it, it's going to become too much apple juice like or apple cider like or something, and going to be kind of poo-pooed or something like that. But I agree with you 100%. If there's no apple character shining through, then it's not really an apple mead. You're just
right.
fermenting. You're just adding apple sugar to ferment with, and it becomes kind of a moot point. And that's what's unique again with the other categories besides traditionals is, while they don't necessarily officially have subcategories for dry, sweet, and semi-sweet, a lot of people kind of lump them together in those groups, but technically they're not. Technically they can all be judged together. So if you're attempting a dry mead versus a sweet mead, is there different ways that you would approach those?
Good question. For me personally, I would say for me, no. I think I would just approach it in a similar fashion. And I do make bone dry Cysers, and I do make sweet apple. I think it would be more a question of just where do I want the ABV to end up when I'm thinking about something dry. So a drier, hotter ABV, it can come off as just completely hot, versus like a drier, lower ABV. So that might be a question that I would ask myself is where do I want the ABV end up if I'm doing something. Sometimes I want like a spicy, dry Cyser, right? So it just all depends on what the end goal is for that batch,
it's always good to be able to have an end product in mind when you start a batch. I know a lot of people just kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to try to make this and just throw a bunch of ingredients together without necessarily having, they just kind of let it be what it is and don't necessarily have like a target end goal with it, and not having those things really kind of hinders you, especially if you're trying to create a repeatable product, something that you're going to be able to want to enter into a competition and be able to do well with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's huge.
I mean, not everything we make, ends up being what we initially, thought. You know how it goes. Sure. But yeah, it is nice to have, a plan, and try to stick to it. And we make adjustments along the way, and then recreating is definitely important. Especially if you get like a real nice finished product. It's nice to be able to just do that again.
Absolutely. And one of those things, would be like, choosing a honey that you're able to get on a regular basis. So how big of a role does honey selection play when you're prepping your meat?
Yeah, it's big, and we do like to play with honeys for sure. Like, if we can get a bunch of cider that's basically all the same cider, I will make like 4, 5, 6 batches of a Cyser with different honeys, just so we can experiment with honey profiles. I mean, if not using our local wildflower honey, we're getting honey from all over the world, really. So it is fun, and a lot of these honeys, they're pretty exotic or first time uses for us, so we really don't know what we're getting into, and it's a fun exploratory thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the best things, is getting to explore the different flavor profiles and the different nuances created by using, say like a buckwheat honey versus a Mexican orange blossom honey, and the vast difference that those, can create just by using the same apple juice or apple cider that's going into it to create that cider. You're just adding a whole other layer of complexity. Which I think that we're in kind of the same agreement, is like, if you're going to be using a base, like water, you can add something like apple juice to that, which is going to only enhance the complexity. Why the heck not? Especially if you have access to it.
Yeah, and there are things to think about, like you said, buckwheat. Like, let's say, I mean, if you're doing a Bochet Cyser, maybe you'll use like an avocado or a buckwheat honey just to give it some even more roastiness, or if it's going into a barrel, some sort of a deeper, darker honey, will give it a little more character. So yeah, you really got to think it through and figure out a plan, and just come up with concepts and put it in buckets and see what's going to happen. That's what we do.
Yeah, there's no substitution for experimentation. You can listen to as many podcasts and interviews and all this stuff as you want, but without going out and getting your hands messy, so to speak, getting your fingers sticky, it's kind of hard to have. You get a much better grasp of what's going on in those things and the flavor profiles you're creating with it than if you want.
Yeah, I mean, even some Cysers that we do where, I'll do like a 50-gallon batch, and it's amazing and delicious, and they're all sold out. And maybe I'll want to try a similar concept, but a different honey next time, just to see, even though it was an amazing mead, I still want to see, what else is going out there,
Yeah, kind of like you said, I like the thought of like splitting it all up at the beginning and having even like a potential like horizontal release of, hey, this is the same mead with a buckwheat honey and avocado blossom honey and this and that. I think those types of things are I think they're kind of lost in me. They're not as common as they could be or should be. I think it would be really beneficial to people to go that way.
Yeah, for sure, and even so, with those same honeys, let's say we'll even fire up some traditionals with those honeys at the same time, just to see, what's going to happen with these without any fruits in it. I mean, we love traditionals. I mean, we love everything, but we're definitely known for our ciders for sure. We started out with my partner Patrick. he has an orchard up north that his wife's grandfather built in the 1940s, and they have they've been bringing this orchard back to life for like the last 10 years, and they have all the paperwork and all the receipts from when this orchard was put in the ground.
Holy cow.
It's pretty cool story, and we get a lot of our cider from up north, northern Michigan. So it's like apple varietals that really don't exist, today. Some certain apples, so it's pretty cool.
I can only imagine the type of wild, crazy things you get from a 100-year-old porch.
Yeah, they're like 30-foot tall apple trees, so it's pretty.
You don't see that anywhere. Holy cow! So when you're you're thinking about your honey selections, and you got the end goal of what you're trying to make in sight, where does the yeast selection fall in that? Is it kind of lower priority because there's going to be so many other flavors, kind of competing for those nuanced yeast flavors, or is it definitely an important thing?
No, it's definitely important. In our small production facility, we're just ambient temperature, so that's a big part of our yeast selection as well. So, we want it to get to where we need it to go. So we like 14%, but we don't mind if it goes a little higher, but we don't typically want it to go less. So we want a nice strong yeast. As far as like the yeast flavor characteristics, I'm not too worried about that aspect of the yeast, because we're getting apples and whatever other fruits that we're putting in our Cysers. So it's more about ABV, just making sure we get a nice strong yeast, which we use probably maybe like 8 different yeasts on a regular basis. So we're a pretty new meter. We've only been open since 2018, but so it's like we're still exploring yeast and trying to figure this stuff out, especially with our ambient temps. So and the seasons change, the temperatures change in the shop there. So we're still, every batch. We can recreate our batches pretty easily, but if we're experimenting, we're learning. You know what I mean? So we've got a handful of yeast that we use with Cysers that we can pretty much guarantee we're going to have the same product over and over again. So. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about temperature. It's all about temperature control in those types of situations, especially if you have to ferment at ambient temperature, because fermenting outside. I guess you could probably get any yeast to attempt to ferment at whatever temperature, but if you're playing to the yeast strong suit, you're going to get a much happier, better product out of that. Yeah. So we do look at, that's one thing we look at really is, especially when we're playing with some new yeast, we're going to look at the temperature that it recommends, the high and the low temps, so.
Absolutely. Do you alter or change your feeding schedule when you're doing Cysers versus traditional or any other types of meat?
We do a lot of front loading on nutrients. We use Fermate O and DAP. And we try to put most of it in and keep an eye on it in the front end. And if it starts to slow down midway through, we'll boost it up a little bit. But we do a lot of front loading. And like I said, we're still learning. So, we're experimenting on batches. We're still figuring stuff out.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's everybody talks wax prolific about the Tunsa schedule, and whatnot. And I'm glad that that's out there, but I struggle to believe that that's the only tried and true method that can exist to get you the best end product. Because up until about 10 years ago, that didn't even exist, and people were still getting relatively drinkable. There were people out there who were able to get high quality 45 plus grade meats out there. I think it makes it a lot easier to do that, but it tells me that there's got to be people out there who are doing something right.
Yeah, honestly, if I don't know if it's Tosna or Tosna, whatever that method is
Yeah,
called. But if we're not there full time at the shop, so
right.
that's one of the reasons why we just front load. If we had somebody at the shop full time working, we probably would change it up a little bit. But
Gotcha.
the front load just seems to work the majority of the time.
Yeah,
So that's kind of why we do it. So
that makes sense.
I think if in the winter months when it gets a little colder in there, it might be probably smarter to stagger a little bit more.
That's true.
So when it's a little warmer in there, we don't have a lot of issues getting a ferment to just go all the way through. So
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine, like you said, if you're playing, as long as you're playing to your strong suits and using a yeast that ferments in a colder temperature, you'd probably be good to go. I wouldn't think you guys let it get down to like Michigan cold inside.
no. I mean, but it's like it could be like low 60s in there.
Right, yeah, exactly. Oh, 100%. Yeah, you definitely need something that's going to operate in that temperature. You might not be wanting to try to use like a Kvike or something like that.
Right.
So do you use or do you recommend that if people are trying to get a better, more well-rounded product, to use like a FT Blanc or FT Rouge or like an Opti White, some of those like tannin added body building supplement products?
I mean, if it's just going to be based off tasting notes, right? So, yeah, I mean, I definitely would think you can add some more complexity to your product if you think it needs it. And we don't use a lot of that, and I don't have a problem with using it. I just maybe just my palate's just not evolved to those to where I think I need to add something. I mean, I'll add some stuff once in a while, but it's pretty rare. I mean, we don't we do a lot of barrel aging, so it's like we get a lot of tannins from that.
Yeah.
And when we're grinding our apples, we grind the skins on, so we get a lot of tannins in our ciders. So personally, I've never in my Cysers, I've never used anything like that before.
Gotcha. And yeah, you were very courteous enough to send out a couple bottles. I'm drinking on your Dreamy Tree, the
Okay.
barrel aged Dreamy Tree, which is apple ginger. So I guess it's kind of out of style because it's got the ginger in it and whatnot. But the flavor is amazing. Yeah, it's got a nice, full, robust mouthfeel to it. It's got a nice, borderline lingering aftertaste. You got the nice bright ginger that's in there. You can get some of that barrel aged character, and all those things help round out that product. And if you're trying to enter a mead competition where you can't necessarily get those things from your added adjuncts or your barrel aging,
Right, totally. Yeah.
those.
If you're making some small batch homebrew stuff, I would definitely think you would want to add some stuff like that to try to mimic that. You're going to want those tannins and that mouthfeel.
I certainly don't think it's going to hurt you if you go that route. I've never used any of that myself, but only again because of limited space and size and all these other things. Now that in the larger brew space, I want to try to use all my tools in my tool, in the tool belt. One of the things that it always rubs me the wrong way is when people are like, I don't want to put chemicals in my mead. And, it's just like, I mean, I understand the concept behind it. It's like, you don't want to add all these man-made preservatives and things because you think it's going to, it's not the traditional ancient way to do things. But like, if you have ability to make a better product and it's not like through a detrimental, harmful thing, it's not like we're adding like arsenic to our meat or something, or like putting lead in there to like season it or anything.
They're all
it's only beneficial to use your tools.
Yeah, they're all like food certified products.
Yeah. And that one kills me too. Is you get people like, oh, I don't like sulfites in my meat, but then here you are eating a charcuterie board with your sulfite-free meat. It's like, kind of.
Yeah. There's plenty of preservatives out there. I mean, and in a commercial standpoint, I mean, we don't have to add them, but it's definitely a smart move. When I was doing homebrew, I remember I used to put, no preservative, salt, no sulfites. You know what I mean? Non-filtered, and just because I was like trying to be a purist, but
Yeah.
there's a pretty big risk in the commercial side of things when if you don't. So, we've never had an issue with a bottle bomb or anything like that, and I've seen the horror stories through the years from commercial places, having to do a little recall or whatever, and
Oh yeah.
I've never that would be a nightmare. So I just do my normal filtration and sulfites, and then we've never had an issue. So
Yeah. Exactly. Like, if you have these tools available to you to create the best, best quality product or a high-end quality product, there's no reason why you shouldn't take advantage of those things.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so, what would you say are some common pitfalls that people make when they're trying to approach an apple?
Um, yeah, good question. Uh, yeah, it's a
Or are
tough
there,
question.
or something that you've come across? Like, is anything you discovered, like any tips or tricks about working with apples specifically?
I mean, maybe like pectin could be one. Clarity. Um, that's when we first started working with ginger, we had a stubborn mead that just wouldn't clear. This was before we were filtering and stuff, but that's when I added ginger to the first batch, and the ginger actually clears meads. I don't know if you knew that, but if you got like a hazy mead, and the ginger will pull everything out of it. So there's a little tip.
Exactly, that's what I want to hear. That's freaking red. Apple and ginger go great together too, by the way.
Yeah, they do. So I mean, as far as apples, it's such a versatile cider and apple juice. It's so versatile. It's like it's kind of hard to screw it up.
That's
You
good
know what
to
I
hear.
mean? I mean,
Yeah,
that's it's we use a lot of apples in our mead and a lot of apple in our meads. And one of the reasons it's pretty readily available, it's pretty affordable. Um, you know, Orchards kind of hang on to their apples for a long time in their fridge, and you can't get it year round, but you can get fresh cider for a long time, especially if it's a big orchard and they stock up. And
yeah,
I would just say try to use local if you can. If it's pretty rare, like an orchard's going to have like a single varietal apple cider, but
right.
if sometimes they do, sometimes you can get them to press you some of just one kind of apple, and that's always fun to play with, like a single varietal apple. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a blended apple juice that you're going to get, and it's just like it's hard to screw it up. I mean, I would say um, uh, whatever you like as far as sweetness level, just go to your preference, um, and I'd say the dry side if is not as on this part of the country anyway. It's not as liked as like the sweeter or the semi-sweet. Um, but it's a smaller portion of people that like the dry. But if that's your thing, make it. I mean, I love dry cider. I love everything. But yeah, it's such a versatile fruit, man. You can't go wrong making a cider. Um, and just play around. I mean, I like to start my gravity somewhere around like 1.155 or something, and end up around like a 1.045, and just
Okay,
call it. You know what I mean? I mean, those aren't like official numbers, but
sure.
somewhere around that range. It's a
Yeah.
pretty easy mead to make.
Now, when you're taking it from 10:15 up to 10:45 ish, roughly, are you back sweetening with cider, with honey, with a combination of both? Does it matter? Depend on like the batch or
No, we don't we hardly ever back sweeten at Maniacal.
oh,
Um, so we try to start our gravity up high enough and have it finish to just let it finish on its own. And
yeah,
if it can finish around 14, 15%, around like 1040, then that's where it is. I mean, we're happy with the way it tastes. And I mean, I couldn't even, I mean, if I've made 100 batches of mead, I maybe have back sweetened a couple with like maple syrup or something if I had maple in it, but it's pretty rare that I'll add honey to one of my meads after.
I'm a big fan of that target fermentation. I don't know if there's another name for it, but I love that target fermentation to start at a specific gravity. You can call it a specific gravity for a reason. You start at a specific gravity, you add the yeast to it, you do the nutrients, and then with a goal of ending at a finishing gravity of X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
and just letting it be what it is, and not having to add those unfermented sugars back into the product
Right.
through
Yeah, I mean,
the honey or the cider. Adjunct is another thing.
yeah, I mean that's mostly what we do. I mean, it's 10 out of 10 batches. We're starting them a little higher, and that's why we kind of we use a little stronger yeast strains because it's a little higher gravity.
Yeah.
Some that'll just plow through it, but then sometimes it'll finish off at 16 or even 17, and it'll be a little bit drier, but I mean that's just where it kind of ends up, and yeah, I just kind of whip the batch up, and I like to start around. I mean, I don't go much higher than 1165 on a starting.
That's still pretty high up there.
That's like my high area, and then like my low area is probably like 1145. So somewhere in between there is where I usually start my batches.
It's been my personal experience through my minuscule amount of batches that most yeast can get through at least 100 points of gravity.
Yeah.
If not a bit more when treated properly. So if you start something at 1165, there's no reason why you can't get it down to 1065 or 1045, especially or even beyond with proper care, temperature control, moderation, and whatnot. So yeah, people that say like, man, that's way too high to start up at that. It's like, well, I guess it all depends on where your end goal is going to be. Like, for me, it seems weird to just ferment everything all the way dry and then just add a bunch of back sweetening, add a bunch of honey to back sweeten it to where you want it to be. It's certainly a method that's tried and true. But yeah, it seems counterintuitive to the way I interpret it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then you're already, say 3 months into it before you finish it and clear it, and then you're back sweetening it, and now part of the mead's 3 months older than the honey you're putting in, so it kind of sometimes the honey could kind of not taste as developed. The sweetness cannot taste as developed as the rest of the body. I've noticed that in meads where people have back sweetened, it's like it tasted like they just dumped honey in it that day, and it's just kind of cloying in a way. But I mean, everybody does their own thing, but yeah, we've always just started it a little higher and finished it a little higher.
Well, to me, there's a difference between a mead that starts at. You could take two meads that are at 1055. One that was fermented from 1180 down to 1055, and one that was fermented from 1100 down to bone dry, and then back sweetened up to 1055.
Yeah.
They're still the same sweetness, but they're going to have two wildly different. Even if you made the exact same mead, other than the starting gravity, they're going to have two wildly different flavor profiles.
Yeah, for sure. And that's some people enjoy that, and that's what they love. It's because it is like a more honey forward, you know what I mean? Because it tastes just like whatever honey you put in it.
Right, you get that residual. It's not just a residual sugar; you get that actual unfermented sugar characteristic.
Yeah.
It's 100%. Here, how diligently do you maintain your recipes?
Pretty well. Like 100% if we can. If we have a recipe that like Dreaming Tree, that's pretty much it's the same thing every time we do it. Our appley, besides changing the honey sometimes, I mean the honey can kind of interchange from a recipe, like say Dreaming Tree or apple ginger. it could be a different cider from a different orchard, and it could be a different honey, but it's the same quantities and it's the same ingredients, right? So I mean, you're obviously never going to get the same honey over and over again. Um, the apple cider you could potentially get if it's the same orchard, but yeah, I mean, we could switch up the cider and switch up the honey, but the recipe's going to stay the same. You know what I mean?
Right, as far as the everything else recipe related goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think recipe maintenance is definitely another one of those things that I feel gets kind of left by the wayside or looked at as something that's not, less important than other things. But I think with proper recipe maintenance, it only makes everything else that much easier.
Yeah. And we've been doing for maybe a year or so with the QR codes, or it's probably been longer than that.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, you can find out like some basic, a little more information than we can fit on a bottle, right? So, yeah, that's an old one.
That's what it used to look like.
Yeah.
And now it looks like you got the QR code.
Yeah.
You scan the QR code and it's got two different stories on it.
So I put in the mead, just a quick mead details, just what I think like a mead maker or somebody who is like interested in like the process, just a quick like rundown of what the mead took to make. I'll put the yeast, maybe how old the mead is before we bottled it, and then there's another section with the tasting note. So I think it's a pretty fun thing to have on the label, because I would love to hear about that stuff from mead bottles that I drink from other companies. It would be cool to just to hear the mead makers' words, like this is what it is, right? And there could be like a cool factor to the story or the process that you just can't get on a label,
Oh yeah, there's been some people I've talked to who basically just tried to write, the Epic of Gilgamesh on their freaking label, and it's like 0.2 font on there and everything, and I'm just like, I love the energy and the effort and the passion for it, but the QR code is by far the best innovation.
Right.
As far as all that type of stuff goes. Then you can put as much as you want on there. Yeah. People know when they go to click there what they're going to be getting. They're getting the story, so they can be prepped to read it on their own time and everything, even after the blog is gone. It's so great. I love it.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is, when you sell mead online, you have to have your label approved by the TTB. Yeah. And that also includes a little description of what's in the bottle, which is on, when people read on our labels with natural flavors, like say, for instance, that bottle of Dreaming Tree, we have to put that there because anytime you add something in secondary that doesn't ferment, that's called with natural flavors. So that would be the ginger that we put in, like the fresh pureed ginger that we put in there. So we have to put with natural flavors. Like, let's say we're adding blueberries in secondary with natural flavors. You know what I mean? So anytime you see that, it's not like we're putting like some crazy chemicals or something in there. You know what I mean? It's because we don't.
Right.
But it could be blueberries. It could be actual real fruit. It could be
blueberry fruit. It could be blueberry concentrate. It could be blueberry extract. It could be blueberry flavoring. And any of those things, they all qualify as natural flavors.
Yeah, peppercorn. Almonds. Anything. If it's going in secondary, it's with natural flavors. And we can't call it a mead unless it's a traditional. That's the only way we can call it a mead. Otherwise, it's a honey wine. So that's why it says blueberry honey wine or apple honey wine with natural flavors or whatever. Most people don't know that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. That's all the stuff that thankfully homebrewers don't have to deal with. They can do whatever they want. Once you get into the commercial side, there's all those other things that you need to get into. So if somebody's got an apple mead, that's a recipe that they're working on, they enter it in competitions. They're getting some, mid 30s scores, maybe some lower 30s scores. What's something that they can do you think, right away to instantly start to like up that score? What's some
absolutely.
Ways to boost their apple mead?
I would tell them to get a scoring sheet, first of all, so they can see actually what you guys are looking at. And then, clarity, number one, that's the first thing you look at, right? So if...
That's a good clear mead.
I know most homebrewers don't have like a Boulan Vino or anything like that, but I mean, we use super clear on a larger scale at the meadery, and that's easy. That's an easy way to get a nice clear product. Give it time. First of all, I would for a Cyser. I mean, there's no reason I would bottle anything under 6 months.
Oh wow.
So that's us at the
Sure.
meadery. So if we're pressing cider in October, I mean it's going to be like a summer release for us. So six
All
to
right.
9 months would be like a normal thing, and even longer than that. But it would never be like before 6 months. Um, so age it, make sure it's clear, and then it's all about gravity too, right? Like I think mouthfeel. So you don't want a thin,
No.
watery. You know what I mean?
Not
Unless you're going for some draft or something. But if it's just a straight cider, you're going to be looking for a honey profile, but not an overly sweet, because you don't want the honey. The honey can take over from the apple, and you want it to be nice and balanced. So you really just it's all about making recipes work, right? And
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the only way you get that is with practice. And so experiment, do a few small. Even I mean, I don't make 1 gallon batches. Even if when I was a home brewer, I made one. My first one, it was 1 gallon, and I went to five like right away. So if you can start making fives, it's going to be worth it. You're going to drink it. It's going to be hard to ruin. So get a couple honeys to experiment with, and get a couple different apples to experiment with, or just get a nice blended cider. What's your favorite apple cider or apple juice? I mean, use that. I made a cherry apple Cyser that I won first place with, um, and it was Costco apple juice. It was Costco honey. It was a bag of Costco cherries.
The old
Um,
Costco Mel.
it was called Corporate Intuition, and it was. I made it.
Love it.
I made it on purpose because back then when I was homebrewing, everybody was dogging Costco. Like, no, use this, use that, and I'm like, I know I
Yeah.
could make a good mead with these ingredients, and I made a good one. I sent it, and I won first. Um, so it's about making what you like. If you think it tastes good, chances are it's probably pretty good. If it's just average, it's gonna probably make an average mead. So you want something that you like, that tastes good in all aspects. You know what I mean, of the recipe. Um, Obviously there are more quality oriented products like that aren't from corporate stores.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the corporate stuff doesn't taste good. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
would I would recommend trying something local as far as apple juice goes, or apple cider. But I
Not
mean,
everybody has
honey.
access to that.
Yeah, right. So I mean, Amazon. Everybody's got Amazon, and there's plenty of apple juices on Amazon, and even honeys and all this and that, because you can't get Hawaiian honey if you don't live in Hawaii. So
Sure.
if you know there's good honeys everywhere. So it doesn't just have to be your local wildflower, which sometimes can not be the best tasting stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh
There could.
yes.
I mean, what if it's some crazy funky sour honey? Like you're not trying to make it tastes
Right.
like feet or something.
Right. If you got it depending on what the blend of your local wildflower is, you could definitely get some peculiar blends.
Yeah.
When I was living in Arizona, the guy down the street from me, he must have had a lot of like cat claw or something in his area because they had this just very unique, funky type of characteristic that I've only had from cat claw honey, which I've only ever had from Arizona in the desert. I've never even seen it in California, New Mexico. I didn't see it in Texas. Um, so I agree with you. If people can reach out and get honeys from other areas, there's no reason why you can't reach out and get juice from other areas or get
Yeah.
juice from the store. Especially if you're just entry level, there's no sense in going out and committing this large sum of money and sometimes on a craft, quote unquote craft orchard cidery pressed juice when you've never really worked with it before or even made that many meads before. That's what those types of things are for, man.
Yeah.
Go to Costco, go to Sam's, go to BJ's, wherever. Grab some
Right.
juice, and make a mead out of it. And then once you got your feet under you, your legs under you, so to speak, then you can go out and look for more other stuff and get those like different nuanced details.
Yeah.
No sense in ruining good stuff on your first few batches.
Yeah, and not that you'd ruin it, but yeah, there's a risk factor, right?
Yeah, my turn. Exactly, retro meadery. 99 bottles of beer or mead on the wall in this case. Sometimes you're gonna break a bottle and it's gonna fall down, but that's how you get better by practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's and just gotta learn on the way, and keep track. I would say keep track. Get a recipe book, and take gravity readings. Like, there's so many homebrewers out there that I've talked to that come into the meadery, and they're telling me about this mead they made, and I was like, "What was your starting gravity?" And they're like, "I don't know, I didn't check." And it's like, well, how are you gonna know anything?
Yeah. How are you telling me this is a 12% mead when you didn't take any gravity readings or anything? What are you doing?
You take readings, and it's a $7 hydrometer. You know what I mean? There isn't some initial investment, but it's like, yeah, be diligent on your recipe, writing down. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to, if you're going to take the hobby seriously, you have to invest some money. Nobody's telling you to go out and start off and get like $300 easy bins, to test your stuff, or even a refractometer. Like you said, a $7 hydrometer from your homebrew store is more than enough, and a little, 200 milliliter frickin' graduated cylinder, you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's
or if you get the right fermenter, you just drop the hydrometer right in the fermenter.
Yeah. I used to have one of those. I can't remember what it's called. I think I still have it. The one on the app that's Bluetooth.
Yeah, the Easy Dins.
No, I mean this one you put in the mead and it just.
Tilt.
Yeah. I used to use one of those in the old days.
Yeah, I always thought that was a neat concept as well.
Yeah.
So it definitely has some more kind of not like necessarily directly mead making questions, probably a little more like thought provoking type questions. So I know you guys don't enter a ton of competitions, but you certainly have and have won a number of awards over the years. How do you feel about the state of mead competitions today, and what do you think, if anything, could make them better?
Well, it's been a couple years since I entered in one. So, I mean, I try to follow. I watch all the meaderies, when their awards start coming in the mail, and it's really cool to see. But I think it's. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough question for me. I would think, because there's two sides, right? There's the commercial side and the homebrew side.
Yeah.
So I haven't been involved in the homebrew side in quite a while. But I mean, it'd be cool if there was more like local homebrew things. You know what I mean?
More opportunities for smaller homebrewers to enter stuff locally, as opposed to having to commit to something like a Mazer Cup or like a Valkyrie's Horn or something.
Yeah, because I mean the Mazer. I mean the Mazer is huge and it's great. But if there was some, how there's so many like beer award and beer competitions. Like if we can get up just a fraction of what those guys do with the mead side, and I know a lot of the beer competitions you can enter in meads, but it just seems like if it was a little more local, because a lot of these competitions are always, even if they're local, they're an hour away. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough to get involved. But I mean, I think it's still growing. I mean, I hope it's still growing. So I'm just excited to see what the future holds. Like, there needs to be more groups. Like for us, it's we got the Michigan Mead Coalition, and it's a fun group of just basically home brewers, and they do a lot. They do a lot. I'm a member, but I'm not as active as I wish I was. But I'm hoping to be in the future. But I just would love to see it grow. The competitions grow. Because it's the more the word gets out about mead, you know what I mean? Because every day somebody comes into the meadery and has never had mead, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I work at Chips at Fantastic here in Richmond, and I'd say any given Saturday that I'm working, a minimum of 40% of the people that come in are first timers.
Yeah.
It's astronomical how many people that come into meeteries and then don't into that or have never been in before. And to your point there, I think that's a phenomenal. You guys have the Michigan Mead. We say the Michigan Mead Coefficient or the Michigan Coalition retro meadery here. They're down in North Carolina. They have the North Carolina Mead Alliance there. Texas has the Texas Mead Association. I'm kind of curious as to why those groups themselves mostly comprise the commercial mead makers. I think almost exclusively. I'm not sure. Maybe your guys is one of their allows home brewers or is home brewer based. But I don't see why those groups aren't committing to at least homebrew competitions. You know, I know some states might not be able to support commercial specific competition, but there's certainly no reason why these states couldn't, like why these groups couldn't host homebrew competitions.
No, they were. When I say were, I've never been, but the Michigan Mead Coalition is pretty heavy involved in a couple brewing competitions, homebrew competitions. So
Michigan's pretty far ahead of the curve when it comes to that.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think there's something that other states should at least look at. Other coalitions, other organizations. These guys have Michigan has the Michigan Mead Cup, which is actually one of the mead cups that's on the circuit for Mead Maker of the Year through the AMMA. Again, you have a plethora of home beer competitions that again allow mead makers to enter them, even though it's not a mead specific competition. I think Michigan does a lot of things right, especially in the competition.
I know the Mead Coalition is, you know, a lot of the guys involved in that are involved in the Michigan Mead competition, and then in a couple months is the Michigan Homebrew Festival, which the Michigan Mead Coalition. I mean, a lot of volunteers, kind of, and you know, in and out of the workings.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of overlap too. You have a lot of beer brewers who are also mead makers, and you know, that exist in both realms at the same time. So amongst the, you know, we're talking about having a sparsity of mead competitions as it is. Do you think it would be beneficial or detrimental to the competitions to expand like a sweetness, to add like say a pastry sweet or dessert sweet above sweetness, or maybe even like kind of something else in between? Like
I think it's a great idea. Honestly, I think you know, there should be like final gravity specific categories, right? I mean, dry could be potentially bone dry up to like, you know, 10-10 or something. And then, you know, keep kind of going up. But yeah, I think a pastry category would be ideal because it's a totally different mead, right? And it should not be the same category as like a sweet mead, which, you know, when we're basing the wine scale of sweetness, it's totally different.
Right.
But it should be, maybe it's, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. Like, what's your gravity? You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I think that's one thing that both of those things that you mentioned are something that's missing from the competition area. I think the competitions would benefit from a category beyond sweet at a minimum, and possibly even a redefinition of the size of the categories. If you want to keep the three categories, like a sweet is anything above a gravity 1025. You know, you could have a 1025 competing against an 1125, and that 1125 Polish style is going to blow that 1020. It's going to make it look like a bone dry frickin' campaign style.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, for sure. I totally agree. It's not even it's a totally different. They're two totally different meads.
Yeah, and the fact that there's not those staggered levels in there, I think leads to a lot of missed opportunities on the table. So
yeah, but at the same time, you know, there could be just one entry in that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
so that's another thing to think about.
Right. That's that juxtaposition, that double-edged sword. You know, you've got all these meats that barely. I think I was talking to Alan Martin back for semi-sweet traditionals, and he was saying the same thing. You already have so many competitions that barely have enough people to field. If you blend, you know, three or four, if you blend, fruit and spice plus mellow mel plus, berries all together to get, just like 10 entries into a category. Otherwise, you're going to have like 2 in this category and 3 in this one and maybe 5 in this one. And then then the argument is people really getting a good cross section. But I would rather compete by myself against no one, or at least one other person, than to have myself potentially lose out on something because I got stuffed in a category with a bunch of other stuff because there wasn't.
Okay.
I think that's actually the biggest plight of the meat competition right now, personally.
Yeah, no, that'd involve like a whole like redesign of the entry, the entry qualifications,
Yeah, well, the BJCP stuff is brought over from, the beer judging, which was, just kind of like I'm very thankful to all the people who created back in 2015, who created the Mead standards and whatnot. It's nice to at least have those. But even some of those people who created those have moved on from the AMMA and are now over at the Mead Institute, and they've completely gone to a 180 and gone from like a subjective rubric where it's all writing down, what do you think, what do you taste, what do you perceive, all these things, to very much more of a objective metric. Okay, so here's a scale of 0 to this, where do you fall on the line of sweet, where do you fall on the line of this. It makes it much more a numbers based game, and I think that's something that that all competitions can benefit from, would be more objective based judging and less subjective.
Yeah. I agree.
I think it's just a little hard to get people to wrap their head around that type of stuff.
Right.
And I guess I probably should have reached on this question earlier, but within the Cyser style, how do you perceive balance? What makes a good balance apple?
Yeah, sure. Acid, sweetness, ABV, mouthfeel. I mean, there's a lot of factors that that you're thinking about, right? Just overall, I mean, I picture somebody tasting it for the first time. What are they going to think? And then you can think of somebody like Carvin. What's he going to think, right? So there's 2 totally different palates, right?
Absolutely.
So, Carvin Carvin's great. He's got like the master palate, you know what I mean? So I try to get anything I can. I try to get him to taste just so I can get his feedback. But balance for me. I'm so far from like a tasting snob. So it's like, does it taste good? Does this slap, right? And then I'm like, yeah, this is done. This is ready. So that's kind of me. That's just me, man. I'm pretty easy. So.
I'm envious of that type of palate, just because I see that as somebody who's got a palate that's so developed that they don't even see like identifiers for the nuanced things. They just look right in it. They identify it. It fits into a slot. It's like, yes, I get all the things I was looking for. And I don't even need to associate names with them because I can just identify what it is. It's good. Ship it out the door. I just get I think it's my neurosis that I just get way too hung up on it. So it's like, is it dialed in just enough?
Right. I think
over
time does fix a lot of things. So there's obviously times I taste something and I'm like, it just needs more time. You know what I mean? And I'll revisit it in another couple months and it'll be like, wow, this is almost there. And then finally it's like, wow, this is something special and it's ready. So I'm definitely, I have no like tasting formal training or anything like that. You know what I mean? I started a meadery because I love mead and I love to drink it. And so if I like something, I know other people are going to like it. That's kind of how I think of it,
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to look at it is, and that's a testament to your business. I know you say, we're a young meadery, we're only since 2018, but that's coming on up on, 7, 8 years, depending on what time of year and whatnot.
Yeah.
I actually think that makes you guys like one of the veterans in the business anymore. There's so many places that closed down. I mean, there's a lot of places that have been open since before then. But, being open that long, I think, is a testament to the quality of product that you guys put out, the commitment to, making a quality product, and your determination to make sure that your customers are happy, heard. And like, I've been in your tap room on a night when that place was wall-to-wall customers, and there was not an unhappy person in the house with whatever was flowing. I mean, it was a magical experience.
Yeah,
Guys,
I mean, we have an amazing team. It's our team is always growing, and we just have some awesome people, behind the scenes and in front. So it's just we have a good team. That's what makes us function, man. It's and produce. So it's not just me. You know what I mean?
and yeah, like you said, you guys got a great team, and I'm happy to have been able to get out there and experience something like this.
Yeah, you got to come back out soon, huh?
I know. I had it was a work thing I was out there for last time, and I just talked to my boss today. He's like, "Yeah, I think we're going to send you out in the spring instead of here in the next month or two." I'm like, "Oh, you're killing me with this."
It's just sitting in the barrel. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm definitely going to be back out there. We're going to make it even more awesome. And like you said, sometimes time is what it needs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no hurry. It's not like it's going to go bad.
It's not going anywhere. Awesome. So takeaways from the apple meads are: don't be afraid to try apples from any source. Your apples from orchard, from the grocery store. Just get out there, make some apple meads. Pay attention to your ABV because that is going to add body, especially to your apple meads. Experiment as much as you can with honey varietals, with yeast varietals, and most of all, just get out there and fucking do it.
Yes, sir. That's right. Nailed it.
Dude, I wish I could have that confidence out the gate, but even after 5 years into this mead thing, I'm finally think I'm ready to start getting out there and do it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you just got to whip it up and don't overthink, but at the same time, have a plan and have some concepts and keep track of your recipes. But worst comes to worst, just give us some more time. I mean, like literally time is the answer when it comes to mead. And I know like you can produce a decent mead in like a few months if you had to.
Yeah.
But I would never. I would just give it. I mean, everything's like. I mean, 6
Nobody's
months
going to get worse with time.
Yeah, it's only going to get better. So give it time. 6 months to a year. If you can wait a year, you're going to be chugging. It's going to be so good.
Appreciate you so much, Jeff, for joining me tonight. Everybody, follow Maniacal Meads. Go buy some stuff from them. If you can, you will not be disappointed with those Apple products. I promise.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining me. Have a good rest of your night, my man.
You too. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me in the live stream. Those of you watching this in the future, appreciate you. All the views, everything, subscriptions, all the jazz. You know how we do in the social medias. Next week, we'll be doing our M2B piements. Join me. See you then. Peace.